been basically lost in the shuffle. Only 11 results have come out of it due to the amount of weather-related walkovers and player safety-related, not walkovers, postponements. So out of so many games, only 11 were played. Don't have a really lot to go on in terms of week 7, but there were some fixtures in there that we will discuss. Thanks to Jamie. We will have the head coach of the UCLAN Rams, Sam Bloomfield, on a little bit later, but obviously QB for Manchester Titans, QB for GB. But Uniball show, so UCLAN does come first. Talk about them. Talk about their, what seems to be their rise up to Div 1, Div 2. Well, that's what at least everyone thinks. And then obviously previewing week 8. And of course, we're going to be at Exeter versus Bournemouth this week, which we're gonna preview that a little bit more because I'm very, 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 very super excited to be going to Exeter to do that game because that's one that's been on the radar for a while. Jamie and SJ, how are you doing?
Decent.
Jesus Christ, what a good start, isn't it?
Jamie, how are you doing? How's your yogurt? Is it a yogurt? What is it?
It was a mini ice cream. It was.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Problem is, it's the same color as your background, so it just keeps fading out. So I don't know what it is.
Oh yes, Mike, how are we doing, Mike?
Mike, how are you doing? How was your game? Obviously, Mike has been with Steve in that part of the country, following Bournemouth as they will travel to Exeter this weekend to take on the Demons. But we'll worry about that slightly later on. We're going to quickly run through the week 7 scores, like both of them. So in the Premiership, we had Birmingham Lions getting a win over Cardiff 21-14. I'll talk about that. I was at that game. Did only get the second half streamed. Technical issues. Rain. Awful. That's the only Prem game that happened this week. In Div 1, Warwick beat Leicester 22-12. The Stirling Klansmen barely beat the Glasgow Tigers. Surprising scoreline there. 8-7 for Stirling. Reading do not win the rematch with Hertfordshire. 20-13. MMU fall in the derby to the Tyrants. 36-24. Bournemouth continue their winning streak. 22-8 over Southampton. Harriet Watt fortunately had to concede a walkover to Aberdeen. Into Div 2, Brighton Panthers continue their domination, and they beat Oxford Brooks at 20-0. UCL put up a 50 burger on the Canterbury Chargers, 53. Portsmouth versus SGS. I didn't have a score for that one. Do you even know that one took place? If I can find a score for it. Paul, what's the score? And we'll talk about it. UCL put up a 50 burger against Canterbury, 53-0. Surrey and Solent go to a 20-0 draw.
SGS 32, Portsmouth 0.
Okay. I'll add it to the graphic. 32-0. Okay. The UE Bullets 2s beat the Worcester Royals 20-0. Sussex gets a walkover win over the Chichester Spitfires, and the UCLAN Rams also get one over Bangor. Not my favourite week in the world. Not many games on, but I'll talk about the one that I was at. Birmingham Cardiff. Very, very close. Birmingham had, a great air attack. Their QB Ethan Payne just slinging it. He knew when to run. Just perfect. Cardiff drove all the way up the field in the fourth quarter to score a tying touchdown and extra point, but just left a bit too long on the clock for the Lions. And I'm not saying this is going to save the Lions from relegation because, who knows what happens with all the maths in terms of games going forward.
Sentence? That's the insane thing now, isn't it?
I know.
It's a genuine sentence.
I was there with Pete and Wilf from the Aztecs came down, and I believe Wilf played for the Lions, and he's like, I can't believe that people are talking about Birmingham going down, but that's the only reason why that narrative was sort of fun to talk about, just because it's so unbelievable that Birmingham may go down.
I think it's just us making control in the media. I think you can pick up some bollocks and people believe it.
Yeah, But it doesn't look like it's going to happen. But it's now going to sort of come down to, I think, Cardiff versus Portsmouth. Obviously, Birmingham would like to get their win back against Portsmouth, and I personally think they will do, because it will be Portsmouth travelling to Brum later on in the season. Reading, what's that?
That's like a 4-hour trip, isn't it?
Yeah. It's not.
Oh, shit.
It's not ideal, but then it's Cardiff will also be hosting Portsmouth on the 11th of February. So be interesting to see how that game goes as well, especially like the large scoreline that Cardiff managed to put on Portsmouth last time. It's going to be an interesting one. May go and do that game. I've not decided yet because it's too far off. The moving on sort of Div 1, I mean, for my taste, like the Portsmouth SGS score 32-0. I mean, I don't really feel that there's that much to talk about with that one. Would you two agree? Like Portsmouth holding 32.
That's what I was thinking when I looked at it. Is it's no disrespect to Portsmouth, but no one was expecting them to go there and do anything.
No,
but I think to hold SGS to 32 isn't. It's not bad.
Is it just me that thinks SGS don't look as good this year, though? But it also might just be because of how UE just eclipsed them and without a bat. Like,
I think with SGS, I've always thought it's a lot of people just give up before they even play the game because SGS. That was my belief. Like when they were back in Div 1, that's how it was. The only team that didn't go into the game with that mentality, held them to 14. So it's. I think it is that. I think it's a mentality thing more than anything. You see SGS or UE on the other side, and you're just like, right, okay, cool. Let's get it over and done with.
Fun day out.
It's a fun day out, yeah.
I think they're still comfortably the second best in the division, but it doesn't feel like they're as good as they were last year. I
feel as though like the SGS luster has definitely waned, ever since sort of the Battle of Bristol 1 last year, where like the Bullets just sort of bullets them, and then like obviously the second game was, SGS did manage to score, but it still was just like SGS seemed so unbeatable when they were coming up through Div 1 and their first few games in the Prem, but then when you have someone, realistically, quote unquote, bully the bully, you just sort of have to now look at SGS and be like, oh, it's just, just another team that's going to get run over by UE. That's how I feel anyway. Don't get me wrong, SGS are fantastic. They could beat any other team. Like they'll have, I imagine they'll have quite a good showing in the playoffs. Obviously, last year the score with Durham surprised a lot of people. It's in Durham's favour, but I still think SGS will get. They'll get through the first round and then potentially have to line up against, Nottingham or Leeds. And I think it will go from there. But yeah, I think it's just like the luster has been sort of lost from SGS because of the Bullets. So moving on to Div 1, Glasgow versus Stirling, 8-7. Considering that people thought Stirling were going to run away with this, 8-7. Glasgow doing quite well.
There's not really a runaway in that division, is there?
No,
which is surprising. I think a little bit. I did expect Stirling to go down, and then
is it because Glasgow are getting better? Like, and a lot of people are sleeping on them. I don't think that they're really good. Don't put it that way, but they've got a lot of people playing senior for Glasgow seniors over the summer, which is. We all know how good Glasgow seniors are. They're not a bad side. And like obviously we played against them last year and they surprised a lot of people last year with what they pulled out. And it's like, have they just grown and they've got better?
I mean, the thing is, I expect whoever wins that division to be the team that actually gets their games played. Like it's shit, but I think that is genuinely what it's going to come down to. People got exams this week and stuff like that, and I'm very much in the boat of, like I said, using exams as a reason to say why you can't play a game on the weekend is pathetic, to be honest. Yep. Manage your time better. Simple as that. Manage your time better.
Especially when they're only around the corner. It's not like they're having to go on like 4-hour journeys from Edinburgh versus Edinburgh. I'm not like obviously sending for it, but that's the example. They're playing in the same city. They play on the same pitch. Like
I think it's the same across the country. Like, I've seen other games like you're like, okay, no, we need to move our game on the 10th because we've got exams that week. It's like it's not like teams turn around in the middle of February and like, oh, sorry, no, we've got 30 of our 40 players have got an assignment due tomorrow. So they're shit at managing their time, so we can't play. Yeah, but hopefully everyone gets the games played up there. But they need more pitches up there, clearly.
It is a shame. Like, but at the end of the day, like, it's much more a Uniball show. If you're a Uniball student, do your exams and do your work first. Don't play Uniball first.
No, it's play Uniball first, exam second.
Uniball or death.
Holy God.
The other one that's sort of surprising here, Reading and Hertfordshire, Reading not being able to get their second win over Hertfordshire, but another sort of tight game in the south.
That sounds like a good one. 14-0 down, or no, 13-0 down. Sorry, But then I saw a photo of that pitch after the game. My God, there's not a single blade of grass left on it. No, it's just pure mud. It's one of those things where, like, because the amount of like walkovers that we had, it's sort of strange to see. Some games that you think may not go off, but then they do. Hertfordshire, trending upwards now after their loss to Reading. Obviously, big test this week. I'd argue their biggest test so far against Brunel. And it's going to be interesting to see where we go. It's going to be interesting to see where we go, where Hertfordshire go from there. But in terms of the other ones, Bournemouth continuing their undefeated streak, again leading into that big game with Exeter this weekend, which we will be streaming. And yes, I will keep plugging it. Again, very excited. I'll keep saying that. In Div 2,
Wooly Mike disagrees with you, SJ. They should study first.
I mean, yeah. I
get that, but I don't think Wooly Mike understands that no uni student actually goes to uni. Like,
no, he's 100%. You're there to study first, but the exams aren't on that Sunday. There's no way that I'm firmly believe that if you're studying the day before for that, studying that doesn't give you anything anyway. Just wait till you get in 6 o'clock. There you go. 2 or 3 hours of studying. You got time in there to make your dinner and then go to sleep. But they're not going to go to sleep. They're going to stay up until 1 a.m. watching fuck knows what on TV.
Playing Fortnite. Bloody Fortnite.
Yeah, banging. That's banging. That's back in business now, isn't it?
In Div 2, nothing too much of a surprise. Brighton are good.
The Pellets are back.
Yeah. They're good at football.
Pellets beat Worcester again. I'm not massively surprised in there. There's nothing too surprising coming out of there. Good on UCL for putting up a 50 burger. There you go.
On that
Canterbury definitely have a good social media, but I'll keep going. Obviously, about UCL.
On that game, why am I getting a message to say that the game might be called off because the grass might be frozen? And then I see an image of that game later on, and it's on 3G. I want to know the answer to that.
That's a question only. That's a question only for your job role, mate. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, I mean, realistically, like 2 walkovers. The Sussex continue to, I think they're going to be marching their way back up to Div 1. It's going to be an interesting game, and I might stream it depending on where it is because I'm not travelling all the way to Brighton. But we'll see. UCLAN getting a walkover against Bangor. Yep.
Big result there.
Big result. Don't know what's happening with Bangor. But, UCLAN continuing to trend upwards. I believe everyone who did the predictions for the divisional winners at the beginning of the season, myself, SJ and Dylan, we all went for UCLAN to take that division. And obviously, speaking of UCLAN, did you like that little that little segue? Because J-Man, I think we're joined by Sam Bloomfield, who, as we've said, Nothing is bigger than Bangor. Nothing is happening with Bangor. Isn't that the truth? Yeah.
No, they're training flag quite a lot. They seem to be training flag.
Well, then they can. This now like a BUCS flag league.
Tonya's wet dream of Bangor now if they're playing flag. Christ.
Brilliant. But we're joined by Sam Bloomfield, the UCLAN Rams head coach, amongst other things, QB for Manchester Titans and GB as well. We're going to bring him on now.
There he is.
Hello.
Hello, Sam. How are you doing after your miraculous win on Sunday?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, good win for the boys. Prepped hard for that. You know, it's unfortunately what we've come to be familiar with when it comes to Bangor. Yeah, bit of a tough one because I'm sure that there's lots of people involved in Bangor who are trying really hard, and I'm sure they've got a very small kind of student body. But unfortunately, when you start your season and you kind of gather around and you tell your players don't expect to play the Bangor game, that's a pretty of a tough pre-season meeting.
It's obviously quite difficult for if you're Bangor as well to turn around and say, by the way, we're going to have our home fixtures in Liverpool. It's a difficult sort of difficult way to get around. But sort of move on to more important things in UCLAN. Definitely trending upwards. Obviously, everyone saw the advertisements for yourself hosting a QB camp up there. What has the sort of Manchester Titans brought to UCLAN? Because I'm aware there are a few coaches up there who play for UCLAN, especially going to a Division 2 side.
Yeah, so I think we've always had a really solid base at UCLAN. Essentially, if you go back, to 2017 and stuff like that, and you look at the players that joined the Manchester Titans back when they were in Division 1, the core bulk of those players were guys who had been at UCLAN. So back in UCLAN's Division 1 days, when we were winning our division every year, a lot of those guys then moved on to Lancashire Wolverines. And then in 2017, we decided we wanted a change of scenery for numerous reasons, and we moved on to the Manchester Titans. And I think that we've retained a strong core of both players and coaches who are either based in Preston or close to Preston, who I think they know the way that the culture at UCLAN is very Manchester-esque, because the culture that we see at Manchester now was essentially had its early legs at UCLAN. The offensive coordinator for Manchester Titans, Luke Carlton, was the offensive coordinator for UCLAN. And I, being the quarterback of UCLAN, being the quarterback of Manchester, was the head coach of UCLAN. And so I think a lot of people know what they get when they come to UCLAN is a really solid structure and a culture that is not going to... it's a no bullshit culture, basically. It's culture above everything. And I think that attracts both coaches and players. I can't take credit for most of the recruiting that's gone on for UCLAN this year. I'll happily give credit to the people who have done that.
How did that come about? Because obviously everyone saw the recruitment come in and it was just growing and growing and growing, and people were like, this is a Div 2 side. Like, what's going on there? Is it just people kind of going, well, I'm going to UCLAN because of the uni, or is it people going, there's a project here, let's get amongst it?
Yeah, so there's a few people who I know who have come basically because it's close to Manchester. And they want to play for the Manchester Titans, or they want to be coached by coaches and players who are involved in the Manchester Titans, which is, really great for us at UCLAN. But there's a few of our coaches. We've got kind of two sides to this. I'll go for the kind of Chorley Buccaneers view of it first. So Chorley Buccaneers are obviously a really successful under-19s and junior program. That's where I started back in when TVs were black and white, and we basically have had a few veteran players, and some of our coaches go and join the ranks of the coaching staff of Chorley Buccaneers this past year, which has helped us to get some really solid connections. And obviously, there's players who are looking for universities, and we've shown them essentially what the UCLAN/Manchester culture is like, what the coaching level is like, and so that has attracted a number of Chorley players, which has really helped us out get some experience, because at Div 2 Uniball, any form of experience is very, very valuable. The other side of it, which is probably a bit more detailed and complex, is we've got a few coaches involved in the GB Under-19 setup. We've got Ryan Allen's the DB coach for GB Under-19s, Alex Challens, who's our offensive coordinator at UCLAN, is the quarterbacks coach for GB Under-19s. And until very recently, our defensive coordinator at UCLAN, Jack Watson, was either an assistant linebacker coach or assistant defensive coordinator at GB Under-19s. And basically those three people are UCLAN's offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and special teams coordinator. And I think it was Ryan initially who decided he was going to try and tap into some of this talent, and basically anybody who's looking for a university, he wants to have a chat with them, and he wants to see where they're at. Do they have a particular university in mind? Do they think they're going to get the grades they need? Because UCLAN is a massive clearing university. And unbelievably, Ryan has just like absolutely skyrocketed with it. So he will invite parents and the student to our campus, and he will go around campus with them and show them the campus. He'll find information about their course or the course that they're wanting to do. He'll jump on Zoom calls with them. I believe last week he had a Zoom call with two people from Edinburgh Napier Knights, who were also part of the GB and Scotland Under-19s programme, and basically got the parents on the call and was talking to them about not just the American football, obviously, but talking to him about the course. And essentially, it seems to me as though Ryan is cultivating, basically, he's creating an environment where he's attracting the parents to this university. There's a good reason for their their child to come to this university, and then you have the child who's looking at it and saying, okay, well, the head coach plays quarterback for GB and Manchester Titans. The defensive coordinator is former GB Under-19s and a linebacker for the Manchester Titans. The special teams coordinator is GB Under-19s DB coach. The offensive coordinator is QB coach for Manchester and offensive coordinator for UCLAN. And then we've got a ton of other Manchester, Lancashire kind of coaches. And so we've managed to pull in some GB Under-19s players, some Scotland Under-19 players, some players from Chorley, and it's provided us with we had a really solid base last year, but 2 concussions on the offensive line, shoulder surgery required after the third game. At Division 2 level, when you lose what was 4 of your starting offensive line, when we only had about 6 people who were rotating, we gave the eventual champions Liverpool our best shot, but essentially we ended that game with 2 wide receivers on the offensive line, and it just meant that when we went into the Edge Hill game, we were 4 offensive linemen down. Our quarterback was not in a position to perform, and ultimately just the season basically collapsed. And I've never been part of a team that's ever done anything like that before, so I was extremely disappointed. It was probably the toughest thing that I've ever gone through in my playing career, in my American football career, playing or coaching, because you see all of the reports about walkover wins, and I think it's hard to not sit there and think they probably just didn't want to play that opponent or something like that. But ultimately, by the time our season ended last year, we were still second in the division, looking forward to playoffs. You know, we'd the only teams left in our way are teams that we'd beaten the last time we'd seen them. We felt good about it, and so yeah, the season ended very poorly. We've now got that base from last year. We've added a load of talent to that, but you know, it's still we've only played one game, so I'm not willing to count our chickens or say anything other than we still have a lot to prove, both to other people and ourselves, before I can start saying that we're, you know, online for our division championship or, you know, promotion, things like that.
Because definitely when the walkover happened for UCLAN last year, I think the majority of us on the show, we were shocked because it was like UCLAN were very much still in the race. In terms of like the things that you've said so far, obviously I'm not entirely sure how it works at UCLAN, but is there like a push for a potential performance sport aspect if that's a availability at UCLAN?
Yeah, so our chairman, Matt Kellum, he was one of the captains for the North All-Star team last year. He's an incredibly organised chair. He's fantastic, and he's got a really good relationship with the director of sport at UCLAN. Now, we're not there yet, but we're really, really pushing for us to be made a focus sport. Or a focal sport, I think they're called.
Mm-hmm.
And it would seem as though there is some kind of positive response because a lot of those, not all of them, but a lot of those recruits that you saw come in this year have ended up with gold scholarships or silver scholarships. And a gold scholarship at UCLAN is £5,000 in your bank and access to free physio, access to free gym. It's all of your stash with, you know, sports scholar on it and stuff. A scholarship that, frankly, I don't know how many universities in the UK can match, never mind how many Division 2 universities can match. But frankly, when these started coming through and I started hearing, oh, they're actually giving these out to American football, I was really surprised. And, you know, credit to Matt Kellum and the work that he's done with our director of sport to make that happen. And I'm just hoping that we can uphold our end of the bargain this year. UCLAN see that actually this has resulted in much higher performance. Let's keep going with it. And we want to keep pushing that.
Where does that money come from? Like you said, most universities can't compete with, you know, £5,000 scholarships, because that is an insane amount compared to, you know, you've got some universities I know of that have literal Olympians on their team. Even they don't even come close to that. Do you know where that money comes from in that sense of where do they get it from? I guess because universities heavily invested in sport.
I could try and give you a really detailed answer, but I'd really be making it all up. I have no idea where it comes from. I know that UCLAN are particularly good in like a couple of sports. I think golf, they are one of the best in the country. I don't know why a university in Preston is so good at golf, but they seemingly are. And I think we're also good at, I don't want to call it F1, but like that kind of racing. Motorsport, yeah. I think we're really good at those too. But in terms of, I have absolutely no idea where that money has come from or why they've all of a sudden, they've always been really supportive of us, but not necessarily financially. But I honestly would probably put it down to Kellum constantly banging on the director of sports door and talking about, you know, how awesome our sport is and how it could be if we just got that support. They've put their money where the mouth is, and now we've got to uphold our end of the bargain, really.
So is it like a long-term thing? Is there like an ultimate plan to try and get into, like, push it and not just go, right, this is let's try and get into Div 1? Have you looked at it far into the future and gone, we could be in the Premier and we could try and challenge?
We have basically set our sights for the past 3 years on making sure we gain promotion. Now, that's really tough when Liverpool are in your division, because I think it was at least 2 years in a row that they won the Division 2 championship, and yet I think stayed in the division. And so I think what we basically set our eyes on is let's get to Division 1, and then we can start looking at, okay, how do we get ourselves into the Premiership? And I'm very fortunate that I know lots of people within sort of CAF in Beckett. I know people at University of Nottingham. I probably have a few people on a couple of the high performing Premiership teams who I could probably chat to. I could speak to Dan Mayer at UWE. I know Dan from our years at GB Under-19s years and years ago. I believe that I could probably talk to these people, get a really good insight into what they're doing, because my bread and butter is kind of adult senior football, recruitment for that, and how all that works. I come and coach UCLAN, and I'm really into it, and I created the club in 2012, so I absolutely adore it. It's where my heart is. But I think in terms of understanding how to get your university club from not just Division 2, but Division 1 into the Premiership, that's something that I am going to have to speak to people about. So yeah.
So it's interesting you say that you created the UCLAN Rams, because one thing that we haven't really spoken about is there are some upstart teams from the complete ground up. If you can take us back there, what went into the creation of a team? Because I believe that it's University of South Wales. They're currently putting out promotional material that they're starting a team. I don't even believe they've got a team name yet, but it's just something that I don't believe that we've ever touched on.
Yeah, so in terms of what we did, first and foremost, we had to prove to our students' union that there was a decent enough size, a student body who wanted this sport. And honestly, our students' union, were really quite negative about it at first, because multiple people had tried before myself and another person called Chris Anderson. Multiple people had tried and failed. Before UCLAN Rams, they were called the UCLAN Dockers, because UCLAN has a dock, and they were called the UCLAN Revolution because I believe that part of the revolution happened in Preston. There's my Preston history. So basically, we went around campus with a really small but dedicated group of people, and we basically went anywhere and everywhere you could go. We were knocking on, dorms. We were in the Students' Union all the time. We were in the student bars. We were getting email addresses from anyone and everyone, and we'd add people to a prospective Facebook group, to the point where we had, 300 or 400 people in that group. And a general rule of thumb is you'll lose 50% after your first practice or second practice or something like that. So we knew that we obviously had to way overshoot. But we got that evidence, and our students' union said, okay, now you need to get your kit and equipment. We can't fund it for you, so you need to get that. So we went to a few meetings about how to do that with the students' union and what support we could get. And financially, there wasn't a whole lot, but they did direct us towards kind of Sport England. And so we spent the best part of, 3 or 4 months doing these Sport England forms and gathering all the evidence and talking about how we were going to set this up and it was going to benefit the sport in this way. And that was an absolute boatload of work, but eventually we got those forms done, we got them sent off, and then about a month or two later we got the word from Sport England that they were going to send over a £10,000 grant, which then enabled us to buy our jerseys, buy our shoulder pads, helmet, lowers, all that kind of stuff. And we were very fortunate that core group that we'd established, a good portion of those had already been playing football in the Premiership for the Lancashire Wolverines back in their glory days. So yeah, we essentially went out and got evidence, got whatever the maximum possible support we could get from our students' union, and that took honestly so much sweet talking, making sure that every single thing, because there's loads of sports teams at university that the university hates. and that the students union hate. I got elected as activities and participation officer in charge of sport and societies, and so you deal with not only the students who are in these sports clubs, but the staff members who are having to deal with them year after year. And you learn that actually the students union hates so many of the sports clubs because just things like they're disrespectful, they're very demanding, they don't treat equipment or facilities or staff appropriately. So I, got our team together, our committee, and basically said, whatever we do, we have to make sure that we are absolutely rosy in everybody's eyes. We'll treat every room we go into with the utmost respect. We'll, be incredibly kind and responsible with the staff, and it genuinely worked out so well in our favour because they offered to pay our head coach at the time, Chris Bradley, and he declined, which was incredibly kind of him, and he said he wanted the money pumped back into our club. So they don't do this for other clubs, I found out, and they doubled our money. So year after year, we were getting a huge portion of money. And I basically asked one of the staff members one day, why have they decided to do this? And they said that basically the sports arena where we play, owned by the university, they love you guys. They think you're great. And so, I don't know, build good relationships, find evidence, and then Sport England or Sport Wales, if it's a student in Wales, is from my opinion your best bet. But it is a boatload of work for about 2 months.
So again, to be fair, that was really interesting because we're so focused on these teams that are already named and in BUCS and everything, but I'm sure that it's not just University of South Wales that is potentially going to be entering next year. So in terms of, because I've seen that Steve Rains has commented, I know one thing that he does at recruitment fairs is show off the championship rings. Is that something that you've done to try and entice people into coming?
No, I think the graphics that the team put out, they will advertise our coaches in terms of look at what these guys have achieved or they're currently doing, and I obviously endorse that and support that because if I think to my playing career, well, I want to be coached by people who've achieved. They know what it takes to win, or they have a proven track record, and so I think that's an obvious thing to do. I think that there's a number of my UCLAN players who probably have no idea that I play quarterback for the Manchester Titans and that we've won the championship, or that I play. I wear GB stuff to practice sometimes, so maybe they know that. But I don't personally like flex on them or anything because number one, it's not my style, but number two, I think that I can earn their respect through other avenues than just flexing on my players.
So one thing coming out of being a quarterback, in terms of the players that come in, I'm sure that there's a few. I've definitely had my fair share of players who come in and say, "I want to be quarterback," having never thrown a ball in their life, or if they have, it's probably on Madden and not in real life. Like, how do you see like their progression? And what is some like the key elements that you would have them learn in order to become a quarterback at the uni ball level?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I would tell them to not watch the NFL. The amount of times that people come to me and they think that watching NFL quarterbacks and trying to copy them is how they're going to end up being a good quarterback, it's far and away not the way. I think that I have fantastic quarterbacks coaches. I have Alex Challens is the offensive coordinator. He's my quarterback coach at Manchester. He was formerly of Loughborough. He wants to know if that's a WrestleMania 17 hoodie.
It's a WrestleMania 19 hoodie.
He'll be pleased about that. He's going to tell you loads of facts about this match now. So Alex Jones is a fantastic quarterbacks coach. He's very good when it comes to mechanics. I have Josh Mills, who was formerly of Chorley Buccaneers and UCLAN. He was part of the first cycle of the most recent GB quarterback selection, and he's been playing in Europe for a couple of years as well, GFL and I think in the Polish league as well. Those guys honestly really work. That's my centre at Manchester, by the way.
Oh, it's always the centres, isn't it? Ooh.
Yeah. So they do a lot of mechanic work with them. I honestly come in and basically just prod them, and I like to make sure that they are. It's the reads for me. The reads and the read progression is the important thing, and I think in terms of what someone could be doing, I think footwork is a huge part of quarterback play. And it's really tough without someone there directing you. But if you're training quarterback on your own, film your footwork. Film your footwork. Just throw in the football. Short screen passes, deep passes, throw in on the run. And if you've got somebody who you can send it to, a quarterbacks coach at your team, a quarterbacks coach at your local team, the GB quarterbacks coach, under 19s GB quarterbacks coach, whoever, which is Alex Challens, send them that footage and ask them to give you some time, because generally people who are in those coaching positions want to help people develop, and they'll take some level of pride in it. It is tough, but getting that footwork down is going to be a huge part of it. I wouldn't try and how to word this. I think putting someone in a situation where they think that they're going to be a good quarterback because they can throw the ball deep is probably not giving them the best chance to be a good quarterback. I think you need to have a quarterback-friendly offense if you're going to work with a young quarterback. And so, oh gosh, it's a really tough question to ask. I think that mechanically we're really lucky at UCLAN, and reads wise, Alex, Josh are really good, and I also spend a lot of time with the quarterbacks going over those reads and making sure they understand that how our playbook can be implemented against whatever defense it is we're playing. I think one of the most interesting things, or one of the things that I get the most response from quarterbacks when I tell them this, or young quarterbacks, is, when you're playing offense, at least in the offenses that I work in and run myself, a lot of quarterbacks will stare their player down that they think is about to come open. They'll look at their player constantly and, okay, now they're open, or they're just about to get open, and I'll throw the ball. But in terms of making reads and reading space, I think that you need to read the defender. So if your offense is capable of picking on certain defenders, if you're reading the defender instead of the offensive player, as long as you know your playbook, you know where your offensive player is going to be, so you can make that person wrong. So in terms of, what to do, throw the football a whole lot. Even if you're really bad at it, spend as much time as you can with the football in your hands and throw it a lot. Film your footwork and send it to people who know what they're talking about. The GB coaches will certainly give you their time and attention. And then probably, I don't know, maybe a bit more of a complex thing is, if you're playing quarterback now at university level or even at under 19s or adult level, try to see if this applies to your offense, but read defenders and space. Don't read your receiver, because you can't see the rest of the defense and the defenders in that instance.
So I'll get into sort of the last couple of questions. Obviously, this week we were supposed to have a few derby games with Manchester, and Manchester being one, and Liverpool. Edinburgh, obviously two didn't happen. Is there that sort of rivalry in the Rams and the Bombers?
I think there is a small rivalry, but the thing is I'm friendly with the head coach. Like, I coached Lancaster back in probably 2009, 2008, 2009. And so even some of the old vets there who've now graduated to coaching, like there's a lot of people there that I know, similarly to both Manchester teams and Liverpool Raptors and LJMU, like it's all very incestuous. Everybody knows everybody there, and there's good relationships for the most part. I would be willing to call it somewhat of a rivalry with Lancaster, but it's not got a lot of hate behind it like it did when UCLAN first set up, and there was a lot of tension and dislike there. That died when UCLAN moved into Division 1 and Lancaster stayed in Division 2. And yeah, so I think now that we're both back there's a clear rivalry, but it's not as spicy as people probably think that it is, or hope that it is.
I might be wrong, but also I'm going to guess that a lot of it might stem down to the fact that Lancaster's varsity is not even against you; it's against York. So that, like when it's Liverpool versus Liverpool, Manchester versus Manchester, like Hull Lincoln, it's that every year. There isn't that guarantee that it's going to be a Lancaster UCLAN every year. That obviously, if you're in the same division, it's different, but I think that might add to it as well. Just going back to before what you were saying when we were talking about the Manchester connection, it's obviously, as you know, I've been on the other side of a sideline against Manchester. Is that whole whooping, hollering, making loads of noise thing, is that transferred across to UCLAN as well, or is it kind of a little bit more, let's just chill it out a little bit, we're in uni?
Yeah, so I think that so what we have at Manchester now, Juice, has slowly evolved from being something that's all about supporting our team to being something that is we want to let you know that we're here, and we're happy to say it to your face. It started at UCLAN under Luke Carlton because we had been playing for Lancashire Wolverines, and we played East Kilbride Pirates, who at the time were just coming right to the end of their adult dominance. It was the year before East Kilbride and Tamworth essentially switched places. We were at Lancashire thinking we can be the team that overtakes East Kilbride, and then all of a sudden comes along the Martin Hilton and Jason Scott led Tamworth Phoenix. We were playing East Kilbride away, and it was a very, very tight game. Basically, they started going crazy on this drive. They're like not even midfield yet, and they're getting like 2-yard gains or like a 1-yard gain, and their whole sideline is like celebrating everything. And basically, our defense lost its mind. Like they couldn't concentrate. They were confused and angry as to why the sideline and some players on the pitch were just going crazy. And we started to realize what they were doing, and it was working with, really a lot of success. And so I think in our off season that year, Luke was at UCLAN and I was there as head coach, and we discussed what we want our sideline attitude and behavior to be. And we'd always come from teams that were like, oh, you're classy. You've got to be very, very classy, and you've got to respect your opponents. And whenever anybody gets injured, you've got to take a knee because that's a normal thing to do. And any talking during any injury is disrespectful and stuff like that. Now, I'm not saying that we should whoop and holler when someone's injured. That's not what I'm saying at all. But taking a knee in Britball is my number one. Room 101. I hate it. But we essentially discussed we wanted to have what EKP had. We wanted the other team to struggle to focus on the game because they were so confused as to why our entire sideline was absolutely losing its mind over a 3-yard gain where nothing happened. And so that's our mentality. And UCLAN is very much a toned down version of that. It's all about us at UCLAN. It's kind of like the PG-13 version of Juice. And so, yeah, our intention is to be loud, make sure the other team hears us celebrating. But if my teammate absolutely lays your teammate out, I'm going to run up to him and I'm going to let him know how great a job he did, but I'm going to make sure that the other team can hear that. However, yeah, at Manchester, it's kind of like let them know you hit them.
So, unless SJ or Jamie have got any other questions,
Not really. I mean, you've got a game this weekend, haven't you? So I guess what's the full
Yeah.
process running to that one? If he gets played, I suppose is the main thing.
Yeah, so we've got a big game against Edge Hill. They've got a big roster, and last year, regardless of the circumstances, it was a 6-6 tie, and ultimately, we have to respect them as a team that could possibly beat us. So our thought process is scout, review, because they run an offense that's different to ours, and when you're dealing with a Division 2 kind of uni defense, you don't necessarily have guys who you can say, okay, well they don't run this, but they run wishbone, or they run single wing. Like if I was to say that to the Manchester Titans defense, you got the majority of people who go, oh, okay, so we're going to be running this kind of defense and doing this kind of thing. We need to sit down with our players every week, show them what the offense and defense we're facing are doing, show them why they're trying to do that, what they're trying to achieve, and then show them how we're going to try and stop that or stop that. So this kind of our game week is basically, we got footage uploaded to Huddle already. We were hoping to have their game and our game from this weekend to swap with each other, because we freely swap tape with anybody, like for like film. I think people withholding tape doesn't make sense to me. And we get that tape, we upload it for our players. We've got about half an hour video that one of our veteran players has made, which is how to watch tape and how to evaluate your opponent, what you're looking for. So we educate our players on how to watch tape, and then throughout the season, we'll just have probably a very similar process. We'll have our scout film uploaded. We'll have our scout documents uploaded. We'll have their offensive plays scripted up. We'll have their defensive play formations kind of all drawn up and uploaded onto Spond, which is the app we use instead of Facebook. And then we practice on Thursdays, and then we continue to encourage players to watch tape, find tendencies, report those back to us. And I think that the more young players see our veteran players doing that kind of stuff, the more they now know, okay, that's what's expected of me. That's the standard.
So just before I send you off, Sam, and we get into our week 8s, is there anything you want to plug? Is there anything that's upcoming for UCLAN? Obviously, you've game with a chill, or anything for Manchester, because I believe that there's tryouts for Manchester around the corner.
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, with regards to UCLAN, if there are any, whether it's future players, whether it's people looking to do a masters and get $5,000, or whether it's coaches, we're trying to quote my chairman here, we're trying to make UCLAN a hub of American football in the Northwest. So we had that wide receiver quarterback coaching clinic with a boatload of high quality coaches and players. We sneak preview for you here. We're looking to get Kev Keohane, the under 17s and GB adults offensive line coach from formerly of the Warriors. There's a very good chance that he is coming to UCLAN to do an offensive line coaching clinic, probably April time. And then we try to make our home games a big deal. So we got our home game this Sunday. It's a whiteout game, and we're also celebrating the first ever UCLAN Hall of Fame induction, which is, I think there's a number of people going in there. And so that's it for UCLAN, really. If you are interested, contacting me, contacting the page. For anybody who wants to talk about coming in the future, I definitely would direct you to Ryan Allen, our special teams coordinator. With regards to Manchester, plain and simple, we've just got our experienced player practice this Saturday. It's 2 till 4 p.m. It's full kit, full contact. However, if you are a university player and you have a game or you're making sure you stay healthy for university season, you can spectate. You can dip in and out of certain aspects of practice, obviously, as long as you communicate that with the coaches, or you can come and full participate. It's for people who either want to join the Manchester Titans, people who aren't sure if they want to join the Manchester Titans and want to have a look at what our practices are like. And it's for people who don't want to join the Titans, but want to come and see what our practice is like. So if you're looking to come along to that, spectate, participate, whatever, or even coaches, we are an open book. You can find details on the Titans Facebook and Instagram about kind of just registering so we know who's coming, because we need to gather, medical history and stuff like that. But yeah, so things are looking good for UCLAN, but we've got a lot to do before I'm willing to really pay any attention to the rankings. That's not shade to the rankings. I like being ranked highly, but I also know that being ranked low means no pressure.
That's yeah. I mean, I try not to create bulletin board material, but it always just ends up somewhere on. Someone will say that my rankings are this, that, or the other, Portsmouth, but
we always get
a long time ago, I stopped getting annoyed at rankings, seedings, and things like that. Predictions. Yeah. That's a young man's game.
Yes.
One more from me, and it'll only take a short answer anyway. So
I bet I can make it last.
Let's say you're going in the mindset that you're getting to the Northern Final. Who do you think gets there with you?
Oh. If Adam Lillis is listening, the GB offense coordinator, he'd be upset with me if I didn't say Kent Falcons. But they lost to the UEA Pirates recently, didn't they? I feel like there's a team that I'm forgetting that are far away ahead of
Northumbria.
Northumbria Mustangs. Oh, in the Northern Final. Sorry, not in the national final. Oh, then 100%. As much as I love the Derby Braves, I know some of their players from the GB setup, and I think they genuinely stand a really good chance. Northumbria seem to be doing a pretty good number on teams in that division, don't they?
But just because you started it, who do you think is going to be representing the North in Div 1? Just because it started, I need to know an answer.
Who do I think is going to be representing the North against the South?
Yeah, so we've got Kent for the South, and then
okay.
Oh, he's gone.
So, but very much, thank you very much to Sam Bloomfield for coming on. It was all very interesting, especially, UCLAN wise, it seemed to be on the up. Performance sport potentially pending, and also how to start a team. We're going to move on to our previews of this week. I know this show's going long, but hey, man, it was a good interview. Bear with. We're going to go through some of them now. Not pick out a lot, but there is one that I'm going to go into depth on, and you should know what it is because it's Exeter versus Bournemouth. So, starting off in week 8 in the Prem, Birmingham versus the Bullets, Gold versus Newcastle, Loughborough versus Leeds Beckett, SGS Cardiff, Div 1. Some of these Scottish games, don't know if they'll get played. Edinburgh versus Herriwell, Aberdeen versus Stirling, Liverpool versus Manchester, Leeds versus Man Met, LJME versus Hull, Coventry versus Sheffield Hallam. Bristol versus Bath in the other Sport Tank live stream game. Good that that's being streamed, but Exeter Bournemouth, come on. Is Royal Holloway versus Reading, Brunel versus Hertfordshire. I know SJ's loving that as Jamie has disappeared. He's back. Awful. QMBL versus Kent Falcons. Come on, Jamie.
Hello,
There we
my
go.
laptop. My laptop's about to explode.
And then in Div 2, Nottingham Green versus DMU, Gloucestershire versus Bullets 2, Solent versus Brighton, Imperial versus Greenwich City versus UCL, UCLAN versus Edge Hill, Bradford versus Northumbria, Sheffield versus Sunderland. Have I heard about that game? Oh, the fight in the fourth quarter, considering that I hadn't even heard about that game happening at the start of this broadcast. No, I haven't heard about it. I'm not going to field that question from our old friend Frankie Pankhurst unless SJ wants to talk about it. I don't know. You heard anything from it? No, we weren't there. Simple as that. I'm going to get straight into it. We will get into the picks. Probably preview maybe 1 or 2. But Exeter versus Bournemouth, I'm ready for it. We'll be coming to you Sunday. I believe kickoff is at 1:45. What are your 2's thoughts?
I don't know anything about the South, but up Exeter.
Yeah, that's the decider, isn't it? That's when we work out who's actually top of that division.
It's one of those things where obviously Bournemouth have had their 2-year rise. They did fall to Exeter last year, but only once. But still managed to win the division. How as Exeter is really pushing it out, really pushing it out. That they're putting forth a really good effort to, I personally think, get promoted into the Prem, and not just win the Southwest. But Bournemouth, they've been on the rise for 2 years, made it all the way to the Southern Finals last year. After coming up from Div 2, great rise. Exeter were solid side. However, I think this is their year, personally. If Steve Rains is watching, I'm sure he'll have a go at me about it on Sunday. But for me, this is, there are some games, ladies and gentlemen, that I stream where it feels like I have to go to them. But then there's some games that I want to go to, and very, very much so on Sunday is Exeter versus Bournemouth. I'm looking forward to it. I'll keep saying that. It'll just be a great game. It'll just be a great game. That should sell you enough, but I'll keep trying to sell you on it throughout the week because that's what I do. In terms of other games, is there anything else that takes your fancy? Obviously, Brunel versus Hertfordshire, I think is a great one. I think that one, could end up being a decider in the Southern. Obviously, Oxford are sort of knocking on the door a little bit, but obviously the Southern's very, very mixed up and messed up. But it certainly is the game for the South people have been looking forward to. Grant is right. Last week for GB trial applications, Grant put in the dates, and I'll mention those as well. But SJ, I know you don't want to talk about it too much.
About the Bruno game.
Yeah, it's one that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, it's. I think it's one of those ones in the start of the season. I think we've both been hoping both teams have gone into that unbeaten.
Mm-hmm.
The way this season's gone so far is, I don't know what's going to happen. It could end up with a team getting blown out. Or it could end up with it being like 3-0. That's just how I feel like the Div 1 South goes this year. Is that some of the score lines are just ridiculous. But yeah, I mean we've still got a few more games after Christmas. So for us, it doesn't. I think by then that's game 4 for us. Whereas for Hearts, it's the end of a 6th game run in a row. So don't know anything about them in terms of if they had injuries, if they had what they had. Like it'll be a good game, but I think it's more trying to work out actually where that game's going to go ahead at. So that's what we're still waiting on. It should be at Brunel, but depending on the weather, it may change.
Yeah. So Grant, if anyone hasn't applied yet, 16th of December in Nottingham for the GB trials, he'll send me the link. Share it later on. Do apply. Go and play for the GB team. Go and play with Sam. In terms of the Div 2 games, obviously, I'd love to talk about Gloucestershire versus Bullets, but is there enough time? Will be a good game. I believe that one's also being streamed, however, not by me, but obviously I will support Gloucestershire, so give that a watch. That kickoff is at 4:00, so you can watch Exeter Bournemouth. That game ends. Switch over to Gloucestershire versus Bullets 2s. Again, not too much in Div 2. UCLAN versus Edge Hill, I think it'll be a good game, but I fairly certain it's going to go the way of UCLAN. City versus UCL is another interesting one, but Still feel as though UCL will take that, though.
I must have missed it when I cut out. I did not realise it's the Battle of the Bastards in LJMU versus Hull this weekend.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do you want to talk about it? Let's talk about it. Talk about it. We'll get into the picks in a second. LJMU versus Hull. Memes. I'm sure that they're preloaded up on some phones, ready to disperse. Both. Hull having a surprising season. Well, at least to me.
yeah,
but LJM. Hold on. I'm still talking. I'm still talking.
I'm going to back you up.
No, but LJMU also having a surprising start to the season by not doing that well.
Yeah.
Now you can go into it, Jamie.
I feel like no one can take offence to say that both teams have surprised people.
Yeah.
Before the season, everyone thought LJMU were going to be up there with Griffins, and that's all it was going to be. And before the season, everyone was like, "Oh, Hull have got no chance. They're going to do a Coventry." But
I said that.
Both have been. Well, it wasn't just you; it was everyone except the people of Hull, and it's just not gone that way. And I think this week will be a massive tell if Hull win.
Yes.
I think that they are in driver's seat. That even though they've got the point deduction, I think that they could still stay up.
Yeah, this is the thing that from here on out, or since the point deduction, Hull know that they're in critical time. But again, they've been surprising, and if they can do it, then I will concede. I will concede that Hull Sharks are a good football team. If they can stay in Div 1, I'll concede.
And especially with how backlogged the fixtures seem to be getting, and I've got a feeling that a couple more go off this season. I really wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple more walkovers get given in that division that are unavoidable, and then that ends up changing things towards the end of the season.
It could be very interesting. We don't want walkovers, but it is a bit unfortunate. It's part of life.
Just the Tyrants are in the division, so
love the Tyrants. So we're going to get into the predictions. I know we probably should have led the show with this. Last week we were talking about would anyone ever go 100%. We've had that now. Obviously, you have to put a bit of an asterisk next to it because of the amount of walkovers. SJ did manage to get 8 of 8 last week.
A win is a win.
And he didn't predict the
Win is a
draw.
win.
And he didn't predict the draw. By the way, listen, a draw, that's just a push.
Who's predicting a draw? No one in the history of this show.
No, Dylan actually did. No, Dylan predicted a draw last year.
I've asked for a draw this year, and I got told it wasn't getting put on the graphic, so I had to get
it's long.
changed.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. Then it's a win.
Exactly. Like Dylan got one last year, but that exception that proves the rule, right? This is simple as that. No picking draws.
I think it should be who do you think won't lose? Then
But we're gonna get into it. But yeah, so how it's went is SJ 8 of 8, Dylan, myself, and Jamie all 7 of 9. So a big result for SJ in terms of the predictions. But we are going to move on to. I mean, if you do it again, I'd be very surprised. But okay, here's a better one. I've got another prediction for you. How many of these games will get played?
How many is there?
Yeah, how many is there?
1, 2.
I don't count them now.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hang on.
He's coming
9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
You can't count past 10.
14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27.
Is there extra points on the line for this?
Oh,
yeah, if you want to, yeah. One extra point.
4?
24.
Oh, I thought you said 4.
What, you think 23 games are going to get?
I'm going 11.
What, in 11 games will go ahead?
Yeah.
Wait, hang on. I don't know what the weather's like up north.
Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on. We'll get into the predictions in a second, but let's see what's the weather saying. General weather in Britain.
I need the weatherman to come up and tell me.
You looking it up?
Hull. It's not too bad. I'm using Hull as the basis of things being good or not, which is probably
fine. I'm going to split. I'm going to go 19 and 27.
Looking at the weather, saying only 11 and go ahead is yeah, that's too low, mate.
So I'm in a position now where I have to come out with outlandish picks, and these are the opportunities that I can do it.
So we're going to get on now because we're over an hour now, and hopefully we don't go much further. Starting off in the Prem, there you go, Fraser. There's already one off the board. Raining in Edinburgh, probably no Napier game. 24-26, easy. So moving on to the Prem, it's the Lions versus the Bullets. How much?
72.
Jamie?
68. I've given up on my hope of them scoring 150 points this year. I don't see it coming anymore.
I'm going to go for 65 just because I don't know. Maybe the Bullets don't travel well. I don't know.
The Bullets don't travel well. They've all
I
travelled.
don't think the Americans like. I don't think all the Americans like the British weather, because I think that also might have a lot to do with it.
Nottingham versus Newcastle.
Nottingham.
No,
Yeah, Loughborough versus Leeds. You don't have to pick this
Leeds.
if you don't want.
Leeds. I feel that's the shittiest thing I possibly do while wearing the jumper.
Yes, yeah, but it's Leeds, isn't it? SGS versus Cardiff. You can do how many on this one if you want. Well, you don't have to. I don't mind.
SGS.
SGS. So moving on to Div 1. If it gets played, Napier versus Harriet Watt.
Napier.
Doesn't get played.
Doesn't get played.
I agree. It's not getting played, but Napier.
Double points if it doesn't get played.
Fine. SJ, who do you want?
Napier. Dylan's never coming on the show again until they win.
I'm going to go Harriet Watt if it gets played.
I'm going Harriet Watt getting shut out for the season.
Brilliant. Aberdeen versus Stirling.
Sterling.
Then it is Liverpool versus Manchester.
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 Yeah.
I think that first one was a bit of a fluke. Raining in.
Then you've got Leeds versus MMU.
Leeds.
Yep. Leeds. Then we've got the Battle of the Bastards, as Jamie likes to call it, with the LJMU Fury taking on the Hull Sharks.
That's a bitter of a game, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Since this weekend, with what Pat McAfee did with the Georgia and Alabama stuff, I've had it all in my mind to do it, but I'm not doing it because I'm not a cringe ball. However, I'm going to get a lot of hate from this, but I'm going with the Fury.
Yeah, I'm going LJMU. I think. Yeah. No, I think Hull need to get back in their lane.
Well, I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a believer. I have seen the lights. I have seen the light shining from Hull, and I will be picking the Hull Sharks. There you go. It's simple as hell has frozen over. That Jamie has picked against Hull, and I'm going for Hull in a game. It's a game that is happening. Coventry, Uni, Jets versus Sheffield, Hallam. Sheffield. I'll just write it down. Don't have to say anything. Now I'm going to do this one last because I want to. So we won't skip that. Bristol versus Bath if it gets played.
Bath.
Bristol.
Interesting pick.
Well, I don't think it gets played. I don't think that's one of my 11 that gets played.
Yeah, I don't think that gets played. In a Sport Tag live stream game, Royal Holloway Bears versus Ring Knights. I'm going to go first here. Might be surprising. I'm going to pick Holloway.
I'm also picking Holloway.
Okay.
Oh wait, it's my division.
No, you don't have to. If you say it, I will write it down, but you don't have to say it.
Yeah, but if I get it, and
move
it's
on.
Right, if I get it and it's right, I'm clawing another game back on you two. This is an opportunity here. So because you two have gone for Royal Holloway, I'll go for Reading. That's my
Okie dokie. So this one's just for me and you, Jamie. It is Brunel versus Hearts.
What? You can't guess who I'm going to predict to win?
Yeah, yeah, I know. Okay, I normally put you down for it, but I don't have to fucking say it, do I, you mong? I don't have to ask you.
Brunel with their running back at quarterback.
Problem is that, like, because I've heard rumors of a certain quarterback, and I just can't do it. I'm gonna have to go for. I'm just gonna have to go for Brunel. I imagine I'm about to get a very angry message here. Yeah, I mean the Hearts quarterback,
Which one?
the American one.
They haven't got an American QB, have they?
Not that you know of, mate, but I know. As soon as I started saying it, I knew I was about to get a message. KCL versus UEA.
KCL.
UEA.
Wait, UEA. Oh, you say UEA. I thought you said.
No, he said it. He said it. He said it. You
No,
can't
UEA.
change that.
UEA. UEA.
I've got to let him have that after what I've just done to him. QMBL versus Kent. Kent.
Yeah, Kent.
Kent. So going to move on to Div 2.
How many games have they played this side of Christmas?
4.
Is that it? It feels like they played a lot more.
No, sorry. No, yeah, 4. I couldn't count for a second there. Moving on to Div 2, Nottingham Green versus DMU.
Green.
Yeah, nice and easy. The Gloucestershire Gladiators versus the UE Bullets 2s.
Pellets.
Gloucestershire.
Solent versus Brighton. Be a good game.
I'm going the opposite of SJ.
Brighton.
Solent.
Awful pick from you there, Jamie. Imperial versus Greenwich.
Imperial.
Flip a coin.
Imperial.
Flip a coin.
Well, I don't know who these teams are.
Okay, you're picking Greenwich then.
No way they've said that on Imperial.
Okay. City versus UCL.
City.
UCL.
City. UCL.
City. I'm going for the mighty Wolfpack.
UCLAN versus Edge Hill. UCLAN. UCLAN. Bradford versus Northumbria.
Northumbria. Oh, you're not talking all high and mighty about Bradford this week, are you?
Oh, fuck off, you little worm. Well, I don't like this fucking York St. John train that you've currently decided to hitch yourself to, you fucking idiot. Again, York St. John, I'm sure they're all lovely, but just outright going, yeah, they'll fucking smash Bradford. No, it's not going to happen. Sheffield versus Sunderland.
Sheffield.
And last, but by absolutely no means least, the Sport Tank, it's 2023, and I'm going to call it now. And this is considering I did Aztecs versus Warriors. Sport Tank Game of the Year, 2023 Game of the Year, Exeter Demons hosting the Bournemouth University Bobcats.
You're saying Game of the Year in December.
Yes, and that's why I can say it. Think smarter, not harder.
Demons,
yeah.
Bleed green.
Okay. I'm going to hope that Dylan picks Bournemouth because I'm picking Exeter as well. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the rundown for week 7. Thank you very much for Sam Bloomfield coming on. Thank you very much, SJ and Jamie, for being on today. Give you one last plug. Sunday coming. It's Royal Holloway versus Reading. That will be streamed. But, again, good. I know I'm competing against my own product here, but Exeter Demons versus Bournemouth. Game of the Year. Sport Tank Game of the Year. Tebs Game of the Year. I can't wait. I will see you there because you should be watching. Get yourself a Papa John's delivery and sit there and watch it. And then watch Gloucestershire versus Bullets afterwards. But, whatever. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. If you're playing this week, good luck. Stay in good health. Goodbye.